Somebody asked a question about this on the text line. It made me want to ask you, even though it's not about this year. Which of the remaining Big 12 teams that Houston and the others are joining do you think will end up being the best rivalry for the Cougars? Because they already played Texas Tech, obviously got a current thing going with Tech, so that could be it, yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people just think about it. A couple years ago during the pandemic when Houston sent their equipment truck up to Baylor, and the gate. You know where I'm going with this, yeah. and then Holgerson gets on the tweet store. I think that eventually becomes the rivalry. I don't see the TCU moving into that spot that they kind of have with SMU and Memphis right now. So I put my money on Baylor, Houston, sort of being that rivalry. I think it's going to be great in basketball, and then. You look at the football aspect of it, but they want to play Baylor. The whole thing that happened a couple of years ago. There's just a lot of storylines, and I just think it would be a good in-state rivalry. I don't think it's with Central Florida or anybody like that, or even Cincinnati. Some people were saying, "What about BYU and the Cougars versus Cougars?" BYU's so far out there that I think that's going to be a weird dynamic. But I would put my money on Baylor, Houston being the rivalry, at least on Houston's side.
Yeah, that was a very not so subtle jab at the bus was there. They're ready to go. And believe it, I think we were because we were just wanting to cover a damn football game, Joseph. We were kind of as disappointed as maybe Dana and Houston were.
Yeah, and we know Mac Rhodes from his time at Houston, and I'm sure between Dave Aranda and Mac Rhodes, if they could have played that game, they would have. And we all know what the COVID numbers were in that game and what positions they were down and stuff. But I guess they just sent the truck early. It's only 3 hours away, so I get that part. But it's not like they sent it to Los Angeles or Eugene, Oregon, or somewhere. So it made for some nice early. Break the monotony of the pandemic, a little storyline, but I think that's certainly a game, especially with Baylor playing so well and being the preseason favorites this year. I think that carries over, and if that happens, that could really be a good game, for the first year of the new Big 12.
Yeah, and man, what a coaching combo, Aranda and Holgerson. I mean, that's like the two totally different guys. One's an offensive genius, one's a defensive genius, different personalities. But obviously history. I think that would be fascinating, a fascinating aspect as well. So yeah, Baylor Houston would be great. I mean, as long as we're talking about the future, Joseph, how do we ensure that before all is said and done, the Texas Longhorns are playing a game down in Houston and not at NRG? Is that much of a talk down there?
There's so many conspiracy theories out there that some people think that at some point the Longhorns will find a way into the scheduling room where they're talking and write a big check just to avoid not having to play in Houston. But, for right now, if things hold up, they're going to get at least one trip to Houston, and Houston would go to Austin. Now, I don't think that they'll be here the duration. I think it's maybe the 1 year and out. But that's something that's been a long time coming. When they lost Tom Herman to Texas, they actually asked Texas in lieu of paying them the buyout if they would schedule a home football game for Houston and a basketball series, and Texas declined. So, they haven't played in, I believe it's 20 years in football. And then they played in a postseason basketball tournament, back maybe 8 or 9 years ago. So, a lot of people would want that game to happen. And the AD for Houston a couple of months ago when we asked him said, look, I'll believe it when I see it. So we'll just have to wait and see what the schedule. I'm thinking more interesting. I think they're going to send Dana Holgerson to Morgantown.
Yeah.
For that first game. so how that stuff plays out. But, can you imagine Holgerson back in Austin if it's this year or next year, and the horns down, all the stuff that he did in that last when they beat Texas. There's a lot of things with the familiarity of coaches and schools that I'm looking forward to it. I think the new Big 12 is going to be fun for a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of. I think it's going to be a lot even, moving forward.
You have Clayton Tune, the quarterback, who's fantastic, award-winning from a year ago, obviously a part of a